Okay, so can you tell us a bit about what you've been doing, like as a photographer, as a photojournalist? What have you been doing?
What have I been doing?
Yeah.
Well, how long have you got? It's 24 years that I've been freelancing. So I have been, I guess, focused for most of that time on issues of injustice, of small forgotten wars, forgotten conflicts, and that, but yet with a focus on the things that probably I find unjust, which I find to be a very good motivating factor.
So how long have you been taking photos? When was the first time you like?
Oh, I don't know. Probably the first time I was 7 or 8.
What kind of camera do you use?
I bought a little box Brownie, which is just a tiny little box covered in black leatherette, and it had a couple of windows. And I remember some of the first pictures I took were on holiday with my parents and my younger brother, who was still a baby. So I guess I would have been about 7 or 8 years old, and that was in Leningrad, or at the time it was St. Petersburg in Moscow. Which I still have. It was a lovely little camera, but I don't use it anymore.
So you've been dreaming about being a photographer since then?
No, not at all. No, I started working. I guess I became more interested the sort of last years of high school. So when I was, how old would that make me? Sort of 15, 16. 17, I began photographing more and studying, learning to process, learning to develop, and that was, I guess, the beginnings, you know. But it was, and then I joined a newspaper in Australia, and but I didn't really have any idea that life could be like this. I didn't imagine myself photographing conflicts or doing anything like that. That was still a long way away, both physically and just in my mind. You know, it was something that I hadn't even. The possibility hadn't entered my mind.
So you're taking photos of like everyday's life as a photojournalist at first?
In the early days, well, I didn't have a lot of money. I mean, I still don't. I had more time then. So I was traveling, especially in Thailand, in the border areas, on the Burma border, Cambodian border. And I did a lot of those lovely little festivals that you have around Thailand, you know, but I was lucky. I was doing them before they really became too popular on the tourist scene. So a lot of the work was that, and then a lot of it again was focused on the border areas, Cambodia and Burma in those early days, which was 1989.
So can you tell us how did you like become a photojournalist, taking photos about war and conflict?
Well, I mean, I arrived here, I came from a newspaper background, and I arrived in Thailand all those years ago with really no idea how to work, because I'd been a staff photographer on the Australian in Sydney. So that was very difficult. I mean, the idea of doing something, choosing a story, photographing it, and then of course having the contacts, people to approach where you can sell it, because all those years ago, obviously there was no internet. The only way to contact people was by fax. So if you didn't have their fax number, it was a lot more difficult to get contacts and to send people things than it is now. So that was a little bit slow, and it's a long, hard. It's not an easy life, you know. I think if you want to do it well, and by well, I think you have to have a lot of integrity. You have to have a real sense of responsibility to the people that you're photographing, and you have to realize that you can't measure success in financial terms if you are a photojournalist. I think to a certain degree, the more money you make as a photojournalist, perhaps maybe you're doing things wrong. I've always thought that I could make probably a lot more money if I did things that were maybe easier for people to look at, easier for them to digest, less challenging. But then I don't think I would be as good at what I do. So I don't I don't think that being good at what you do and having a good visual style or sense of visual literacy, I don't think that really helps in terms of money. So it's very difficult, I think. It's difficult to, but important to stay very focused and to keep your integrity.
Okay, so is it hard to work in the wartime, like, because you're using film? How did you like develop film in the battle, or?
Oh, there's no developing film in battle. No, it's.
What was your process of working?
I would photograph, and then I would come back to my my home in Bangkok, my darkroom, and I would spend the time in the darkroom.
Oh, you don't develop there?
Processing? No, very occasionally I've had to process overseas. Probably the last time I've had to do that was in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and I went out and I found equipment that I could develop with, and I blacked out the hotel room, and I developed my films like that. But that's very rare that I have to do that.
So how can you like make a good set of like 12 photos and make it good, like?
Well, it's not something that you can do part-time. You have, I mean, it's taken me 24, 25 years, and I'm still developing, changing, getting better, learning how to see. You really have to put everything into it, you know, and I think if you're not prepared to do that, then that won't come. And even if you are prepared, maybe you don't have what it takes. Yes, putting together good pictures, well, you need to be very observant. You have to, I think, have a passion for what you're doing and your subjects. You really have to care about the individuals you're photographing and for their plight, you know, the problems that they might have. That has to be your number one concern. And I think you have to immerse yourself in that. You know, you can't just arrive somewhere for 5 minutes, take a few pictures, and then say thank you very much. But you know, maybe you have nothing to eat in this place. So I'm taking a taxi back to my 5-star hotel to have a big meal, and I see you tomorrow. You know, you starving people. You know, you have to share the same little bit of the same risks, and there has to be a give and take. And I think when they trust you, when they see that you're taking the same risks, then they open up and you become much closer to the people. And that's when you make good pictures. You can't just arrive and take from people because it's closed. It has to be two-way street.
When I look at your picture, it's like the photographer was not there. It's like they don't look at your camera. It's like so natural. So how can you do it in the battle?
Well, there's not really any pictures of battle up there. I mean, I've only been in sort of what I would consider. Oh, let me think. Probably only one really big battle, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I couldn't take pictures because we were just being shelled, and you need to be practiced. You need to be very aware. You need to be aware of obviously for your own safety. So you always need to know where you have to move, not to get in the way.
But you get so close to your subject.
Well, you have to get close because if you don't get close, I mean, there was Kappa who said if you're not close, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. And I think to a point that's true. You know, you can't use. Well, I choose not to use zoom lenses and telephoto lenses because they destroy your own vision, and they destroy your style, and they destroy the flow. Because that's why I work with single lenses, which have one single focal length. So I always know I don't have to put the camera up and start doing all of this. So it's very, very fast. And by simplifying and by not using a lot of equipment, you get faster and faster. So, as you said, a lot of the people, they don't seem to notice me. It's because I work very, very quickly. You know, by the time I've taken the picture, that's it. I've gone, or I've turned around, or they haven't seen me. It's all very, very fast, often moving. Yeah, how you know your equipment. The simpler everything is, the better you can be at it. You know.
So you using only like film? Do you use like digital camera?
Not for my work, no.
So every piece of work are from film photography.
Yes.
So how do you like it? How do you like film photography?
There is only film photography. Digital is not photography.
So what do you think about being a photojournalist with digital camera and film?
Well,
camera? What's the difference?
I think I like the tactile. I like being able to actually hold on to something. I can hold my film. It's not just a mathematical formula that's in this swirling around in a hard drive that one day can just disappear. I like the idea that it exists, that it's tangible, that it's in some way organic. I think I believe that there is more, it has more strength as evidence, a film. I mean, if you show me a digital picture, the chances are that you've only kept one out of 200 and everything else is deleted. So it's just one floating image. I don't get to see what comes before it, I don't get to see what comes after it. With any of these pictures, well, some of these aren't mine on the walls here.
And you took only black and white?
Only black and white, yeah. So with every single picture that I've shot, if you want to see, I can show you the roll of film. And then you can see, that was picture 11, you can see every picture that I made before it, how I moved, where I came. So in terms of a record, it has a lot more weight and power, because you can see that it's not staged, it's not set up. You can see how I've arrived there, you can see other things about it. And that's just one of the things. In terms of the quality, the digital is, I mean, the Leica that I use, it's with film, it's as good, better. It has soul. I can take pictures with the small rangefinder that you cannot take with these just digital SLRs, and I get to see the picture.
But you have to be sure that every pictures you take, it's like beautiful.
You have to be very careful what you do. But if I have 36 pictures, when I take the picture, I see every one of those because I never leave it. You take 5,000 pictures with one of these cameras, you never see the picture that you take when you take it because the mirror is up. So I can take one picture of you, I know exactly whether it's good or not, I know if you have your eyes open, if you're smiling. You can take 1,000 with that Canon or the Nikon or anything, and you might have your eyes closed in every one. That's why people have to do all of this, or did I get that, did I get that, did I get that? And then you lose the moment. You can't, photography is like a dance. You know, when you're photographing on the street, you move and you move around, and it's always like a constant flow like this, constantly focusing and doing all of this. If you have every 5 seconds to like go, oh, did I get that? You can't dance like that.